Hello.
Hello. How exciting to see you. Imogen is such an extraordinary innovator in terms of how she makes music and then how she interacts with her fans. In fact, the word interacts doesn't cover it. It's collaborative, a collaborative process with her fans. Whatever sort of music you make, I would be surprised if you don't go away from the next 45 minutes with a bold idea to take home from Imogen. Let us start with you and the found sound that you use in so much of your music. I imagine when a mathematician goes around the world, around a city, he sees numbers. I imagine when you walk around, you hear sounds, do you?
I do. I hear sounds in my head, and I hear sounds on the train. Sometimes it's louder than others, depending on where my focus is. But yeah, if I'm working on a particular song where I'm finding sounds, or I've asked my followers, my fan base, to send in sounds from their own lives. It could be, the sound of them shaking a tree. Then I might incorporate that into a song. So then when I start to hear everyday sounds, then the noise gets really loud, busy, and exciting.
So give us some examples of some of the, obviously there's a lot of instruments in your music, but give us an example of some of the found sounds you've used.
Okay, well, one of my favourite ones was for this song called Lifeline, which on the March the 14th of last year, that's when I began my new record. So I'm doing a new project every 2 or 3 months, which is also a new song every 2 or 3 months. And during this first day, when I first began the new record, I kind of threw the baton to the fans and said, send me in some sounds that I can kind of see what happens out of this. So I had an hour every 6 hours where people could send in, upload sounds. So they uploaded some brilliant sounds, 900 sounds, and I went through all of them. And some of my favourites was the dishwasher door. Somebody sent in a nice, really great sample of a dishwasher door, which sounded something like this. So I tuned it down, and that became part of the middle eight section in the song. Somebody else sent in the sound of an egg in a bowl, which was a great sound that kind of went and that became the snare in the chorus. Somebody else sent some scratching of their knees, I assume, and on jeans. I'm not quite sure what denim.
We hope it was the knees.
We hope it was the knees. And that became kind of like a kind of sound for a rhythmic kind of pulse.
And what's exciting for you about the idea that someone sort of throws you a curved ball and you try to catch it?
Well, I discovered, it's different when you just record your own sounds, like your own knees. It's just not quite the same, because you have this extra element that somebody somewhere on the planet is sending you their knees, and the idea that you can connect something as kind of it's like insignificant as somebody scratching their knee and turning it into a hi-hat pattern or something is just really invigorating. So what was the question?
Well, in a way, it's a problem. Am I right? It's a problem that a songwriter faces is what to write about. The world has got so many things you could write about. How do you choose?
Exactly, that's a good question. Yeah, it's finding forcing the limitation to get creative within, because it is just so overwhelming. Every single sound on the planet, the sound of somebody's photograph kind of clicking away in the background. You can easily turn anything into the music. So it's with each of these projects, I've been kind of setting the concept in place, setting the guidelines, the limitations. So the first one was asking people to send in sounds, and somebody's slinky going down the staircase actually determined for me the rhythm of the song. So this kind of and then doubling up with justification that I found in my brother's newborn baby, the heartbeat of her actually still in the womb of Kate at the time, was actually kind of perfect against the rhythm of the slinky. So that kind of justified it for me. So you've got the heartbeat of of Robin, her name is, with the slinky.
So is it a kind of version of the sonnet? A sonnet is a particular poetical structure that the poet has to kind of push his thoughts into, and it's people write about it as a welcome restriction because it almost corrals your thoughts or forces you to be creative.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, lyrically, I also did the same thing, because again, I wanted to discover if there was one common thread on that particular day, on the Tuesday, the day after the dishwasher doors and such, to see if there was a common lyrical thread that might emerge from it. So I put up a word cloud online, and people could just send in individual words. So I set this up, 2 weeks in advance, so people kind of knew what was going to happen, and then opened the floodgates on that particular day for a 24-hour period. And the words that started to come up were words like gravity, love, wave. And this was clearly about what had just happened the weekend before, which was the Sendai earthquake. And I was hoping that people were going to send in words, because I wanted to write about it, because it just happened and it was all on our minds. And so it was this wonderful connect for me to be able to connect something that was going on in the world at that moment, which everybody was thinking about and sending their wishes, to connecting it to my family through the new heartbeat of this new-born baby, to connecting it to the fans.
And by using a SoundCloud, the words become bigger when they're more subscribed to, don't they?
Exactly, yeah. So there were wonderful words like gravity, which I love, and effervescent as well, and a strange word that popped up, teaspoon. So I'm not quite sure why anybody thought that they wanted. But anyway, lots of fans decided, oh, that's funny, we'll make that bigger. So teaspoon got enormous on the page. And so I was like, how can I work teaspoon? I'm going to make it happen.
And it's in the song. It is in the song.
Yeah. I could play you a little bit.
Yeah. Lifeline, the first seed to sprout.
Yeah. So in this song, there's the word teaspoon, and I worked it into the bridge. I might not play the whole song, because because I think I'm going to do some songs. Maybe I'll sing it tomorrow so we can chat more. But there's, in the bridge just before the chorus, there is this word, and I decided that if it seems really trivial to put it up against the earthquake, sorry, but if you imagine your life is just going along, and you're just making a cup of tea at home, and then out of nowhere your life completely shifts. Maybe you get a phone call, or maybe there's an earthquake, and it's just that in the turn of a teaspoon, just your whole life just completely shifts, everything around you. So that's how I figured it into a lyric. So maybe I'll play you, up to the end of the first chorus or something like that. And you can hear words like gravity in the chorus, and love, and all these things. Okay, so I'll do my best. My voice might sound a bit rubbish today, but I'll give it a go. So the tempo, like I said, is for the slinky. And if you can imagine the tukum, kukum, 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 tukum, kukum, 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 kukum. Freeze frame on me. Won't you lend a hand to pull me through? See, I'd actually forgot the lyrics just then, because I was actually thinking that it would be nice to explain the verse lyric as well, because the verse lyric is actually saying that the whole song is about this moment. It's basically this whole moment in your life where the before and after, kind of this moment one of the big moments in your life that defines you. So freeze frame on me. It's like this moment we're kind of zooming in to find this person. Actually, the inspiration of the song was, I was trying to find an in with the song, and I found it difficult because it's such a huge thing that happened. I couldn't connect with it. I couldn't really empathize. It was so big, the scale of the devastation. It took one small passage in a newspaper article about a guy who was racing for his life on a bicycle with the tidal wave on his back. The guy was, the helicopter was in the air, and the journalist could see from above. And this really struck me, because the strife of this man at that point, just with everything against him, just racing for his life, really struck me. And I was reading that in a newspaper in a cafe, and I broke down into tears. And that was my connect to the song. So it's all about this moment, and about life flashing before your eyes, kind of, and the images that might come up in my life if that was going to happen. So.
freeze frame on me. Oh, can't you read it on my face? Data mining from old memories. Sunflowers and a smile catching, welcoming a heartbeat to the family. Light eye lanterns wishbound in the night. What when all in one stir of a teaspoon, I'm shaken and gasping for air. Lifeline before and after in an instant of great white gravity. Hold tight, 'cause all is against me, every cell in my body breaks. And keep breathing.
Wonderful. It's wonderful performed like that. It's wonderful on iTunes too, where you've got the sounds you were talking about.
Yeah.
So talk us through that process of taking the slinky and taking the sound in Propeller Seeds as the sound of your banister at home. How do you take those sounds and make them work in a song?
That's really good fun. On this occasion, all of the sounds kind of went into a session in Ableton, and then I basically just tried things out, just quick brushstrokes, because I only had 2 weeks to write the song from its first beginnings, do the video, do the artwork, and release it all in 2 weeks. That was my challenge to myself, because I've discovered that I think 2 weeks is my optimum time. That's when I write what I think are my strongest songs. In the past, I wrote Hide and Seek in a 2-week period. I wrote Speeding Cars in a 2-week period. I said it in 2 weeks. And so I take this, that's what I basically set up for my album, that I'm going to do these 2-week slots every 3 months, but do the project kind of, and then the song. So yeah, I kind of open up the session and just throw things next to each other and just see what kind of dances around each other, and then I find a small connect in it, and then I kind of follow it like a thread. And just kind of get wrapped up in it for a bit, and try not to think too much about it. That's the great thing about having little time, actually, is you don't overthink things, and so.
And you change the pitch and presumably the rhythm of these sounds.
Yeah, I was trying to keep actually quite a lot of it intact on this one, because I like the idea that you could identify the sounds. But yeah, often I will take a sound, like this, I don't know, that, and then it might be like, oh, that's nice, but it's just slightly a quarter tone flat, so I'll just tune that up, or you could, I love playing with audio like it's Play-Doh. It's like kind of like stretch it around, which kind of leads me on to a little bit the gloves that I've been developing, about wanting to actually be able to almost physically imagine that I'm actually touching the audio by developing these gloves, and kind of, changing sound depending on where my hands are and how they're moving, and how fast they're moving, and moving sound around the room just by waving my arms in the air, and recording.
It's a pheromone, isn't it? What are they called? Theremin.
Yeah, theremin. You can kind of change pheromones.
Or a pheromone.
You're changing the pitch with theremin. So you're going, or the other way around. I can't remember. Anyway, I don't play the theremin. Hello. Testing. Sorry, I've had very little sleep, and my poor throat is suffering. So yeah, the theremin does this. So I can kind of do something similar to that, where I could say, for instance, the gloves, when my hand is down, then you're at zero. You're at zero frequency, 0 hertz, and then when you go up. I could do that if I wanted, or I could kind of go wow, wow, if I wanted, or I could kind of go da da da, kind of travel around the room. I've been trying to, basically kind of humanize the tech that I'm working with, because
so you can kind of dance the song almost.
Yeah. In time, I'd love to actually create more of a body suit, and actually, depending on where I am in relation to the audience, kind of playing with that too, the space distance between us, that perhaps when I get closer to the audience using something like the Connect, I could as I'm making this song, as I get closer, perhaps I get less reverb or delay on my voice, or perhaps the drums that I've programmed become less busy, so I become more intimate. So that actually my connection with you and the space on the stage is kind of how I feel. Like when I'm further away, I'm like bigger and I make bigger shapes, and when I'm closer to the front of the stage, I sing a bit quieter perhaps. So it's how to translate that into of making music on the stage.
Propeller Seeds is such an interesting track in that someone's described it as a kind of audio version of a video, of a music video. It's entirely immersive. Can you talk about how you achieve that?
Yeah. So there's this really great guy called Nick Ryan, who's now become a great friend, who came to my house and had a little chat to me about this idea he had. He basically wanted to sonify a song in the real world. So kind of taking a song, maybe a famous song, and then going back to the roots of that song. What was the inspiration and where was that person when they wrote it? And actually recreating that in real sound. And taking out the music, so you just hear the voice and you kind of walk through it like you're walking through a film set or something, or you're walking through that person's head, where that context of that person was when they wrote it. And I love the idea of this, of kind of, because with a song you're trying to sometimes recreate a moment or an emotion, and what kind of better way perhaps than to also try to augment onto that the actual sounds that were around you when you were there. So I love this idea, and so I was trying to think, what on earth, what would I want to really make people feel, and what would I like to relive again in a sense of the sounds around me, and so I could really relive it as myself, not just as a song. So I decided to choose the moment that I met my man, who I love dearly, and I met him at a conference, and the moment that I met him, I was kind of, a bit kind of thinking about other things. I wasn't really thinking, and then I was chatting to this guy, and I was like, okay, I'm going to give you a couple of minutes, and then I'm going to go and get some food because I'm really hungry. So I was kind of letting him talk for a bit, and then all of a sudden, it was just like, bang, I want your babies. It was the most amazing thing, and I don't know, we haven't had babies yet, but
this can happen at a conference, and you're all at a conference.
Yeah. So watch out. Is there a bed area for beds for people? So this moment was like shocking. I mean, I knew that I would be very sad if I went through my life and didn't have kids, but I never had the feeling I want to have kids, especially with a stranger. So it was this moment of like, I decided in the song to make it as if, because I really felt like, I felt strong. I felt kind of at peace in a way. Not that I wanted to jump into bed with him almost. It was, obviously I had to have done that if I was going to have babies, but it was this kind of like a peace that I knew that as a woman I wanted to have children, and that was really great. So I had this kind of sense that I was, and I know this doesn't actually translate very well when you speak when you're in Australia, because apparently rooting means something else, but maybe that's apt too. But rooting like a tree into the ground, I felt like I was kind of embedding roots into the ground, but that my hands, I felt like I was a kind of a tree, that my arms were, I felt like I had the whole world, that I could, now that I understood that I wanted to have children, and possibly with this man, strange man, but I felt like deeply kind of solid, and I'm very excited about that, because I've always kind of been floating around. So the lyric, actually, the propeller seed, is this idea that I've been kind of like this for my whole life, kind of like, oh, nice man over here, nice man over here. And this time, the propeller seed's going to go and landed in the ground and outsprouted a tree. So when you listen to the song, you actually hear the sounds of Nick then kind of created the sound of this tree, as if you're a tree. So when you listen to the song, and you have to listen on headphones, you start to hear the kind of creaking through in the chorus, going into the ground of the trees, the roots, making the roots, and then you hear kind of like your leaves are kind of sprouting out at the end of your fingertips.
And he climbed up trees and recorded leaves and broke bamboo.
Yeah, he did. Yeah. He's brilliant. He's absolutely brilliant. He's just a genius in 3D in 3D sound, and how to recreate that. And I learnt so much from him.
There's also the other thing that's amazing about the song is this sense of narrative. So and of these scenes coming alive. After you said you were hungry and you wanted to go to the cafeteria, once you arrive in the cafeteria, in the sound, in the narrative of the song, the cutlery is clanking in that way. Cutlery does, and then it forms into a pattern and it becomes the percussion of the song.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, exactly. The world around us kind of starts to dance. And as if we're kind of in this bubble and we're floating through, people going, oh, hello, hello. Everyone's like checking out your name tags and seeing how important you are. And then we get to the cutlery, and it's almost like I don't even care about cutlery. I'm happy just to like stuff my face in the plate right now. I don't care. I want to know about this man, who this man is. So I kind of dance. I go to the cutlery, and the cutlery kind of becomes part of the music, exactly. And so in the song,
you walk past a disco, I think. After
yeah,
you walk home then.
Walk past a disco. I actually that's probably the longest time I've ever spent on like 2-3 seconds worth of music, because I wanted to get when we went after the kind of evening event at the conference. He took me in a rickshaw back to my hotel, where he left me for the evening. But as we did it, we passed by this disco, and he was like, "Oh, we could go out dancing." And I was like, "Oh, it was a bit of a kind of, actually, well, I've got to get up tomorrow, and I've got to do my conference speak, so I can't do that." I felt a bit bad, but I remember
we'll have the baby later.
Yeah, we'll have baby later. And so I heard this like go past, and so I wanted to recreate that moment again. So in the song, you hear Propeller Seeds, the song, in a kind of four on the floor style, with the Doppler effect going as you pass by it. So with the song in the background. So even though you basically only hear the kick drum, but if you opened up the filter, you'd hear like Propeller Seeds kind of banging away in a club, because I recreated that.
And then you end up kind of alone in the Hilton Hotel or something.
Yeah, in the old bank hotel actually. Yes, I went and had a very cold shower. And because I just knew I wouldn't be able to get to sleep. Well, that wouldn't probably help me anyway. But, so I went into the shower, had a cold shower. So you hear me go into the shower in the song. You hear me in the shower cubicle, and we recorded the sound of the shower. And then you hear, then I'm in my bed, and I drift off into dreaming of him. And you kind of, it's almost as if we tried to make it so that it's like you levitate, above the bed, and you kind of go above, and the city's below you. So as if you've kind of panned out in a film.
Well, it's the best $1.63 I've ever spent on iTunes. I can tell you, it's so dense. It's so wonderful. And I wonder, when I was listening to that in particular, how you choose when to use a conventional instrument and when to use one of these sounds manipulated.
Yeah, that was fun to try out different stuff. The more music I put in it, the more kind of traditional musical instruments I put in it, the less it reacted with me. So I actually ended up hardly having any musical instruments in there at all. So if you do listen not on headphones, then it kind of sounds like, what's that? There's this kind of noise. But you have to put the headphones on to hear that there are kind of just ever so slight, frequencies coming in here and there, and you start to hear things dancing around your ears, and then it makes sense. So yeah, I for instance, when I talk about wedding bells and children and things like that, you start to hear a very distant church organ kind of come out of the sound of this other sound that was part of the event, and you just start to hear it kind of come in, but you don't really notice when it comes in, and then it goes out. It's just like little memories.
And so much of this music happens in the laptop in some ways, where you manipulate all these sounds. Yet a lot of musicians still are very wedded to traditional instruments and probably don't even have the capability to do a lot of these things. Do you see this as the future of music? Should music education always include as much laptop wizardry as it does conventional instruments?
I don't know if there's probably very few musicians that don't use computers now, because the benefits of having a recording studio in your computer is very cost effective.
But they're using it to capture an authentic sound from musical instruments rather than bringing other things to it.
I do still think, you still can't beat a cello, the sound of a real cello, and the air in the room, and the brushing of the bow against the string and all that stuff. So, I would never suggest that, a sampled version of that, for instance, might you can never beat that, because you never get the expressivity of that in a recording. You can kind of get away with it if you're doing it and in bulk, like in an orchestral kind of samples, because you don't hear the individual, but with a real kind of, you'll never be able to recreate that. But I think, I don't know, I think it's good to have variety in the world, and I really enjoy kind of throwing in, people's knees into my song, but it might not be for everyone.
Yeah, we should do Knees Up Mother Brown using it. How did you become so clever with it all?
I don't know.
At school, or early on?
Yeah, well, when I was 12, I did come across an Atari computer in a cupboard. Me and my music teacher didn't get along very well. He was called Mr. Dodge, which says it all. And he and I basically walked into the room and we just looked at each other. It was like, so he put me into the cupboard. But he knew I secretly loved the cupboard, because in the cupboard was an Atari computer. And I had an enormous manual, and he didn't know how to use it. But when I discovered that, these sounds in my head, these melodies in my head, and these pieces, because I didn't know, I didn't ever think I wanted to write pop music or even sing. And I did sing, but just for fun. I didn't want to be a singer on stage. I wanted to have an orchestra, my own private orchestra, and travel around the world with my own private orchestra, my own jumbo jet, and premiere pieces at the Sydney Opera House and things. So I
which is happening on Tuesday night.
Yeah, so yeah, it was. I just basically discovered this Atari computer, and when I realised that I didn't have to write down things anymore on manuscript paper, that I could actually just type it in, instead of going, and then I could actually hear it back rather than trying to convince, a friend. I still think that in those ordinary sounds, it's kind of maybe even more interesting, perhaps, for a fan to kind of go, oh, I would never have thought of using an egg in that way. That's interesting, and they actually get to know you very well by taking something which is quite ordinary, and then seeing what my brain does with it.
So some artists, I think, would be shy of that ultimate collaborate. You're collaborating with the world, in a sense. You've opened yourself up to 1.7 million people. Some artists would say, look, this is mine. I want to own it entirely. They would be almost egotistical about it.
Yeah. I think when it comes to the actual point of songwriting and actually kind of being in the studio, making the sounds and bringing it all together and mixing it and editing, all that stuff, I'm still protective over it. I'm still like, I do that. And even though I have, this great girl called Kelly, who works with me at the house, she sets things up at the house and puts in microphones, and she's great. And she could do more, and I could kind of be off having a holiday. But I just kind of, I like doing it myself. I really love doing the editing and finding that pattern that happens accidentally, and I get excited by it, and that turns into the rhythm.
Well, I found you this morning with solder iron on the floor inside the listening chair, fiddling with things, so hands-on indeed. Tell us about the listening chair, because people might have seen it in the foyer.
Okay, so the listening chair is a chair that you can sit in. It has a screen and a microphone and some speakers, and it wants to ask you a question. It wants to ask you, what do you think the song is that still needs to be written? Because I wanted to discover if there was a song void, if there was themes that people were still really wanting to hear. Perhaps it could be, about right now, or something much bigger, or maybe somebody wants to write a song about, why isn't there a really good song about dinosaurs, So
Dorothy the dinosaur, it's already been written by the Wiggles.
Oh, well, I didn't know
She
that.
doesn't know.
Okay, we don't.
Our children's
I'll
bands.
just send the listening chair back home now. We don't need it. So I wanted to, see. It's kind of a project in itself, just like wanting to just find out if there is that kind of common song void.
And then you'll respond to them and maybe write a song.
Yeah. So on this, I'm going to keep it running for all eternity, and just see how people's ideas shift and change depending on what's going on in the world. And also see what people are concerned about too, whether it is global warming or whatever it is, climate change or whatever. And then, but for the last song on my record, yes, I'm going to kind of have a look at all of that and see, okay, what can I draw from this? Like, as the last song on the record, just to see if there is something big that needs to be written about, and then.
So another example of this collaborative method.
Yeah.
And other songwriters will be able to look at it too. So if you don't want my wonderful song about how I was in love with my turtle, Randy Newman might.
Yeah, he might. He might.
Who knows? Now, we've got about 5 or 6 minutes left, but if we've got some... has anyone got a question? Sir? I'll repeat the question in a second when you've... Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you a songwriting question in regards, over the last 6 months I've been building this studio in my room, and I'd say I'm a guitarist and vocalist at the core, but each new piece of equipment I get, like a MIDI keyboard and adding all these weird wonderful sounds, I find myself sinking deeper into a rabbit hole, and I just wanted to, see how you kind of keep the balance between the traditional instruments or whatever you learn to write music on, and the new technology.
So you're saying that new technology can almost be distracting in the end? Is that a fair summary of the question?
So much choice. Yeah.
Yeah. Endless possibilities.
Yeah, yes, that is a big problem. Which is why I do like to set up these specific, 2 weeks, get it done, set your release date, and then you're forced to kind of dig deep and go, what are my instincts? Because with time, instincts kind of disappear, they go and have a cup of tea, they go into the garden for a walk, they go for a jog, and then you lose the little voice kind of disappears in the time. It's kind of off having a tea break. So I would say if you are kind of getting overwhelmed by the amount of stuff and the amount of kind of you've got like 10,000 possible sounds that you could listen on massive, or something, and you're like, that song, I like that, I like that one, and it just goes on. So I think find something that you like, and then go with that, and just be really strict and go, okay, I know that I love this lyric, or I know that I like that beat, and then don't try. It's really easy to kind of go, oh, well, that sounds rubbish. I'm going to spend 10 hours making that kick drum sound good before I do the rest of it. But actually, just get the kick and the snare and the pattern, get it down. It might not be the best. Just get it down and then do some. Basically, I love this motto that I read somewhere in a book when I actually typed in, how do you write lyrics? On Google, because I was just like, help, one day, how do you write a song or something? And I came to this page which said, it was actually about writing a book, somebody giving advice about writing a book, and it was just saying, do what you can see in the headlights. I really love that. I carry that with me everywhere, that you can't see the whole picture. You can't see the mountains yet because you haven't even found the bottom of the mountain. You can't do all of this stuff. So just do what you can see in the headlights, and that could just be a person's face, or it could just be the sound of that bass sound that you heard in that club hit when you were dancing around or whatever you might be doing, and do that, and see where that takes you, and try not to spend too long on things.
Great. Now, who? Up here. If people give you shit for what you do, how do you respond?
Just don't listen to them, and why are they bothering to spend the time telling you that they don't like it anyway? Have they not got anything better to do than just tell you that they don't like your music? So I just try to tune out and carry on, because really, everybody has different tastes. Not everybody on the planet likes my music, otherwise I would have a condo in every country in the world.
But is one of the negatives about this Twitter, Facebook engaged world that people can tell you that they like you or don't like you?
It's true. And I bet, it's true, even though I say that, I still get affected, obviously. If somebody says, oh, your music's rubbish, you haven't written anything good since Hide and Seek, then I kind of go...
We know how to get to her now.
Yeah. I go, oh God, I'm really terrible. And then I kind of go into a slump, and then I go, wait a minute. There's like 99 other messages which say, you're really great, I really love what you're doing. It's just that one that just sticks with you and that digs a knife deep in you. It's so easy to just kind of get down, because you're just your own, you have to lift yourself up and keep buoyant. So yeah, just try to ignore them, really.
Great question. Sir? Do you mean professional critics or
friends or family?
Yeah. Do you have?
Oh, that's yeah.
Do you have particular people in your life or outside world that you turn to in order to judge whether you're online or not?
Yeah, Yeah, I mean, sometimes I do go back to the fans and go, look, I can't decide. I've got 5 versions of this chorus. Help. You know, tell me which one you think is the best one. And then, you know, often there is a favourite, and often actually it is my favourite too. It's usually the most recent one. I just needed confirmation sometimes, just to carry on. I find actually the most useful thing is just to drag anyone in the house who might be there. It could be a painter, decorator, it could be, you know, my boyfriend, it could be whoever's there, and just bring them down into the studio and go, can you just have a listen to this? And then as they're listening, this kind of weird magical thing happens where I start to go, oh, I realised that I actually don't mind that bit. It's fine. And I hate that lyric. I didn't realise I hated that lyric.
Because you're listening through their ears somehow.
Kind of, yeah. You become objective. But still, I was not really answering a question. My manager, Mark, who's in the room, he's been with me for 17 years, and I really value his opinion, and also people like my mum. You know, even though she doesn't always get what I do, I still know that she wants to know if I mean it from the heart, and she can. I feel like she can tell. So I do value. So I value different, for different reasons.
All right.
Different people.
One last question, sir.
Yeah. As an artist producing material which is not kind of straight pop material, how important is it to have a manager to guide your career and release you as an artist just to be creative?
Did everyone hear that? You know, the role of the manager, basically, especially as an independent artist.
Mark's backing into the recesses of the room now. I mean, hugely, hugely important for me to have Mark in my life. Mark and I have been working together since I was 17, so that's 17 years now. And he's just invaluable, really, in the sense that, there's a common thread throughout my whole career. I have no other common threads in my life other than my family. And so it's really, really important for me to always be able to know that Mark knew me all that time ago. I trust him beyond, you know, everyone. He knows me. He knows when I'm down, you know, to just stay away. He knows, he just knows me very well, really. So it's really important from an emotional standpoint to have somebody to kind of go, it's all right, you know, I know you're tired, it's fine, just, you know, just be there for you. And, you know, and on top of that, you know, he's a great manager and he comes up with great ideas. And he comes around the world with me, and he's also doing a panel or some kind of talk tomorrow as well, aren't you? Yeah, so go and see him.
It's called Dealing with the Digital Diva. The Truth by Mark. Not really.
We'll see. So I think, I find it, he's a great buffer as well. I mean, I do deal with a lot of the creative, obviously, anything creative kind of coming directly, like meeting, collaborating with people, then I go directly to them. But if it's something that's like paperwork that I really don't want to be thinking about, or some kind of really annoying little niggly thing, then it's great to be able to pass that on to Mark and just and keep going with the creative stuff. So, but he loves that, don't you? You love all that stuff. Yeah,
let me ask you one final question. I think everyone's interested in this 1.7 million Twitter followers. At the ABC, you know, they're so obsessed with the number of followers we have. Tragically, I've only got 2,000. You know, if I don't get 2,500 by the end of next week, it'll be curtains. So how do I and all of us, how do you get so many Twitter followers? How do you convince people to follow you? And how might we learn from that?
Well, I do have a secret, actually. The secret is that when I began, I first of all had a YouTube account where I would blog every 2 weeks the progress of me building my studio in my basement, all the kind of annoyances about that, and the patch bay. And
this is as a film or as a written?
As a film,
as a film, yeah.
So like a 10-minute, one take, this is what I've done this week, uploaded, and then did that every 2 weeks for like a year, basically. But I always felt like there was this missing space that I couldn't talk about that time when, I just, you know, all the little things that happen in between that you can't fit into 10 minutes of talking because it's been, you know, 14 days or 24 hours of stuff going on. So I found Twitter just brilliant to just be able to kind of quickly say, just, you know, I found that lyric, or looking up this word in the dictionary, or whatever it is, or, you know, going to get some space or going jogging or to get some ideas or whatever it is, and be able to share that too, the creative, because that's very much part of the creative process. Even what you eat is part of the creative process, I find. So I like to tweet about these things, and when I was doing that, the Twitter gods, the bosses of Twitter, whoever decide who's good to follow and who's not good to follow, they decided to put me in their featured list. So I'd already got 30,000 fans at this point, or 30,000 Twitter followers, after like, I don't know, 6 months or something. And then they featured me, so that every time somebody, this is just right at the beginning of when Twitter started to get big, and then people would be like, oh, what should I, oh, this person looks interesting, tick, 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 you know, and I was one of the people you could tick. And then all of a sudden...
It went from there. But part of the answer too is you genuinely engage people and genuinely allow them to influence your work.
Yes, I suppose. Yes, I do. I do really enjoy the dialogue very much.
It's the ultimate collaboration.
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
Amazing. We're out of time. Can I tell you on Tuesday, Imogen's Vivid concert from the Opera House is sold out, but that it's going to be streamed from both Imogen's site and from the Vivid site. And as convention delegates here, of course, you can come tomorrow night to the Summit Song Sessions, and Imogen is performing, I think, 8:15 to 8:45 tomorrow, so you can hear more of this beautiful music. But right now, can you please thank Imogen Heap?
Thank you to Richard as well. That was great. Thank you.